Hello, everybody. We are talking about political power and territoriality in 4.3 today. So let's take a look first at the objectives and essential learning. So you need to be able to describe concepts of political power and territoriality as used by geographers. Political power is expressed geographically as control over people, land, and resources. We can see this illustrated by neocolonialism, shatter belts, and choke points. We will have examples of all of those coming up. Also, territoriality is a connection of people, their culture, and economic systems to the land or to the territory, to the area where they may reside. All right, so political power and territoriality. You need to make sure that you know both of these terms. So territoriality, this is the control and influence over a specific geographic space. Okay, so it can include aspects of historic and cultural links, maybe where those people have existed historically, or maybe where they have cultural ties. Ideas of government, economics, boundaries, and those could be geographic boundaries as well, sovereignty, defense, and or military, and also this idea of territoriality can sometimes lead to conflict. If two countries, if two authorities claim that same territory, then there can definitely be conflict, such as, in this little cartoon here. Political power is defined as control over people, land, and resources, and this does not necessarily always correspond with geographic area. This can be other types of, it doesn't have to be like power of territory. People can be exercising political power over people, land, and resources in other ways. So one of these ways is neocolonialism. So this is the use of economic, political, cultural, or other pressures to control or influence other countries. So we do see this a lot, right? Where one country has that influence over other countries, where they have that ability to persuade. Maybe they are very economically strong. Maybe there's some sort of cultural tie, or other types of pressure that can assist them with that. So we have ideas of semi-periphery and periphery countries. We will talk a little bit more about that in one of the upcoming chapters. So semi-periphery and periphery countries, these are countries that, then we also have core countries. These are countries where we typically see that control or influence being exerted over. So African countries would be considered in the semi-periphery and periphery, for instance. So former African colonies, they are reliant on outside investments for economic security. So for example, in Kenya, currently we have a lot of Chinese government influence there, where we have companies coming in to help develop that area, to help create infrastructure. There's a $3.8 billion railroad, and the Chinese have control over this railroad. They're the ones that built it, but that gives them a lot of influence over that region. So in this political cartoon here, we see China as the farmer, the cow is representing Africa, and then feeding on this $12 billion investment overall throughout the whole region. And of course, China has their self-interest, right, in mind while this is going on. There's also political influence. So for instance, the US wars in the Middle East, being able to influence that area, being able to also bring in other people, other countries to get involved as well. And then this graphic here, you all can pause the video and take a little bit of a closer look. But this is representing China's trade with Africa here. Shatter belts. So these are regions that are geographically located between states, sometimes with overlapping territoriality and political power. This can also lead to a lot of instability. So some examples here We can see a couple of these maps. Germany during the Cold War, Germany was situated kind of right in the middle, right in between Russia and the rest of Western Europe. So we have the Berlin Wall that used to be there. Not there any longer, but that was considered a shatter belt, an area of instability that's between two different political powers. Another example is the Balkan Peninsula, where former Yugoslavia was used to be part of the Ottoman Empire, also was part of the Iron Curtain during the Cold War. In that region, we see many different ethnicities, religions, languages, and that can turn into centrifugal forces, or forces that divide places, forces that create maybe conflict because of those differences. And here we can see how eventually this area broke up, but they've had a long history of instability. And having that instability is a characteristic of a shatter belt. And finally, we have choke points. So these are strategic straits or canals that are geographically narrow. They can be difficult to pass through, and there's always competition for their use. These are often very valuable, influential areas because they could be closed or blocked to stop sea traffic and strategically show political power or territoriality. So because of their value lies in their essential ability to be able to ship things like oil, food, consumer products, things like that. So they are pretty key for trade. The Suez Canal is probably the one that maybe you all have heard of the most, or the Panama Canal as well. And those are key for economics and even politics, right? The ability to be able to use that area can be a chip when it comes to political bargaining. All right, and let's move on to